The world of Valoria was a marvel of biosynthetic structures, glowing pathways, and towering spires that hummed with energy. I had never seen anything like it before, because I wasn't from here. I was human. A month ago, I had been a soldier. In the Terran fleet, deployed to negotiate a peace treaty between Earth and Valoria. The mission had gone horribly wrong. An ambush, a sudden explosion, and then, darkness. When I woke up, I was no longer on my ship. Instead, I found myself in an alien medical facility, surrounded by soft blue light and machines that pulsed like living organisms. The air smelled sterile, but oddly sweet. My body felt heavy, as if I had been in a deep coma. That was when I saw her. She was unlike any being I had ever encountered. Her skin was a pale, iridescent violet, almost translucent under the artificial light. Delicate bioluminescent veins shimmered beneath her surface, shifting in color as she moved. Her eyes large, slitted, and glowing faintly with an otherworldly blue hue studied me with intense curiosity. She wore a form-fitting uniform, adorned with strange silver symbols that pulsed as if they were alive. "You are awake?" she said, her voice a melodic vibration. "Your body has undergone extensive regeneration. Do you feel discomfort?" I tried to sit up, wincing at the ache in my muscles. "Where am I?" The nurse tilted her head slightly, her dark tendrils of hair rippling with the movement. "You are in the Valorian medical sanctuary. You suffered extensive injuries. We healed you." I took a slow breath, my mind still foggy. "Who are you?" She hesitated, as if unsure whether to answer. "I am Dr. Zyrah Vallon, your primary caretaker, a doctor, an alien doctor. I was being treated by a species that humanity barely understood. And then I realized something else. That was naked beneath a silky, thin covering draped over my body. My face grew hot. "Do not be alarmed," Zyrah said, noticing my reaction. "Your garments were ... compromised. We removed them. For medical intervention." I swallowed hard, trying to focus on something other than the heat rising in my cheeks. "How long have I been here?" "Approximately 26 lunar cycles." "You were in stasis for regeneration. Almost a month." That meant I had been out of commission while an intergalactic war possibly raged on. My crew, my captain, were they even alive? Before I could process the shock, Zyrah stepped closer, pressing her fingertips lightly against my temple. A warmth spread through me, and suddenly my thoughts became clearer. A telepathic connection. "You are healing well, but your physiology is unique," she said, her tone shifting to something more clinical. "Your species reacts to our treatments in unpredictable ways." Something about the way she said it made me pause. "What do you mean, ... unpredictable?" Her gaze flickered downward to my abdomen, and then lower. My skin tingled where her eyes lingered. She took a step back, her bioluminescence shifting to a soft shade of pink, as if she were flustered. "It is an unexpected inflammation in your lower region," she said hesitantly. "One that does not align with the expected healing response." I blinked, then followed her gaze down to where the thin fabric covered my body. "Oh, ... realization hit me like a plasma blast. Oh, Zyrah's tendrils twitched, and she quickly averted her gaze. "Is this a symptom of distress? Are you experiencing discomfort?" I almost choked. No distress. That's actually normal. For my species," she frowned, genuinely puzzled. "Normal." I exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over my face. This was not how I expected to wake up in an alien hospital. A natural response, it happens sometimes, usually in certain situations. Her eyes narrowed, calculating. Situations involving mating rituals. I nearly died again. Zyrah studied me for a long moment, then made a soft, thoughtful sound. "Fascinating, fascinating." This was the most awkward moment of my life, and she was fascinated. Before I could say anything, she lifted a small device. Scanning me again. "Your body temperature has risen significantly. Your heart rate is accelerated. Your pheromone levels have increased by 200%. I groaned, pressing my palms over my eyes. "Look, can we just move past this?" Zyrah didn't respond immediately. Instead, she stepped closer again, her gaze curious but clinical. This could be an important biological discovery. I swallowed hard as she tilted her head, her glowing eyes studying me with far too much interest. for the first time since waking up. I realized something else. I wasn't just her patient, I was a test subject. And Zyrah wasn't just treating me, she was studying me. I shifted uncomfortably on the examination table, still reeling from the last 5 minutes of pure mortification. Zyrah's glowing gaze remained intensely focused on me, her slender fingers adjusting the sleek, translucent screen hovering in the air beside her. Alien symbols flickered across it, shifting in real time as she recorded whatever the hell she found so fascinating about my condition. So, I cleared my throat, trying to move past the elephant in the room. You were saying something about unpredictable reactions. Zyrah didn't look up. Yes, your cellular regeneration has been unusually fast compared to the baseline human data we acquired previously. I frowned. Previously. She hesitated. Then, after a brief pause, she said, "There have been others. Humans treated here before." Something in her tone made me instantly suspicious. I sat up straighter, ignoring the slight ache in my muscles. What happened to them? Zyrah's bioluminescent veins pulsed with a soft silver hua color I hadn't seen on her before. If I had to guess, it meant hesitation. Some recovered and were returned to their fleets, and the others, I pressed. She finally met my gaze. Some did not survive. A cold weight settled in my stomach. What exactly are you treating me with? I asked carefully. Zyrah lifted the scanning device again, sweeping it over my body. Your treatment consists of Valorian biotic infusions, a regenerative serum designed to accelerate tissue repair. However, your response to the compound has been ... atypical. I exhaled slowly. Atypical? How? Her glowing eyes flickered down to her floating display. Your genetic structure is adapting in ways that were not predicted. Enhanced cellular regeneration, increased metabolic efficiency, and she trailed off. I narrowed my eyes, and her gaze flickered back. To me, heightened physiological responses to stimuli. I groaned. Right? We're back to that. Zyrah tilted her head, her tendrils shifting slightly as if she were processing something complex. Human biology is fascinatingly reactive. The mere presence of another being, particularly one of my species, seems to induce unexpected changes. In your neurochemistry and physical state, I blinked. White? Do you think this is happening because of you? She didn't blink. That is the most logical conclusion. I let out a short, disbelieving laugh. That's not how it works. Her expression remained unreadable. Explain. I hesitated. How the hell was I supposed to explain human attraction to a highly advanced alien scientist who clearly had zero understanding of the concept of intimacy? It's complicated, I finally said. It's not just about biological reactions. There are emotions involved. Context, personal attraction. It's not purely chemical. Zyrah studied me for a long moment, her silver bioluminescence shifting again, this time to a soft violet. I see. I wasn't sure she did, before I could elaborate. The lights in the medical bay flickered, followed by a low, ominous hum reverberating through the walls. Zyrah immediately stiffened, her tendrils snapping taut. What was that? I asked, instinctively. Tensing. Her gaze darkened. We are not alone. My heart slammed against my ribs. Zyrah swiftly tapped a sequence on the holographic display. Bringing up a surveillance feed, the screen flickered before showing a distorted image of a corridor outside the medical bay, shrouded in shadows. Then, a figure moved. A tall, armored silhouette stepped into view, its features obscured by a sleek, black X. The plating was smooth, predatory, with no visible insignia, but I recognized the design. I felt my blood run cold. That's not one of yours, is it? I asked. Zyrah's expression hardened. No. The realization hit us both at the same time. Someone had boarded the facility, and they were coming straight for me. The room's low hum of machinery was drowned out by the sound of my own heartbeat hammering in my ears. The armored intruder on the surveillance feed was moving with calculated precision, his silhouette blending into the dimly lit corridors of the Valorian medical facility. Zyrah's bioluminescence had shifted to a deep indigo shade I was beginning to associate with tension. Swung my legs off the examination table, wincing as my muscles protested. I was still recovering, but whatever weakness lingered had to be ignored. The instincts honed from my years in the Terran fleet screamed at me. I was in danger. I turned to Zyrah. Who the hell are they? Her glowing eyes flicked from the screen to me. I do not know, but they are not Valorian. The answer wasn't reassuring. I glanced at the floating display again. More figures emerged from the corridor's shadows, their sleek exosuits void black with faint red indicators pulsing along their helmets. Their movements were too smooth, too synchronized. They weren't just soldiers, they were specialists. "Extraction team?" I muttered under my breath. Zyrah tilted her head. "You recognize them?" I gritted my teeth. "I don't need to. I know their type. Those aren't mercenaries, they're trained infiltrators." Her gaze sharpened. "Your people?" I hesitated. That was the real question, wasn't it? If they were Terran operatives, they weren't here on a rescue mission because I would have recognized the insignia. These weren't my own, which meant they were either rogue or from a faction that didn't want me alive. Zyrah pressed her fingers against the control panel, her tendrils shifting as new holographic screens materialized in the air. Complex alien symbols scrolled across the displays as she accessed deeper facility security systems, whoever they are. She said, "They have overridden our external sensors. We did not detect their arrival. They breached without an alarm." My stomach twisted. That means they either have advanced cloaking tech or they had inside access. I clenched my jaw. This was an inside job. Zyrah suddenly stepped away from the panel, her voice sharp. "We need to move. Now." I didn't argue. She pressed a sequence into the console, and a portion of the wall shifted, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a sleek, metallic container with glowing Valorian script. Zyrah touched it, and the case unfolded into a wapena, slender, curved energy blade that pulsed with faint blue light. I raised an eyebrow. "I thought you were a doctor." She gave me a sharp look. "I am. That does not mean I am defenseless." I believed her. I looked around the sterile medical bay for anything I could use as a weapon. There, a tray of surgical instruments, some of them sharp and metallic, some of them alien and unfamiliar. I grabbed a compact plasma scalpel, its edge glowing faintly. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Zyrah moved swiftly to a hidden panel in the wall. Pressing her hand against it, the structure shifted, revealing an access passage. "This leads to an emergency transport conduit," she said. "If we reach the lower sectors, I can access an evacuation vessel." I nodded. "Let's go." We stepped into the narrow passage, the door sealing shut behind us. The walls pulsed with soft organic light, illuminating our path. As we moved, I glanced at her. "You're awfully prepared for something like this." Her expression remained unreadable. Valorians do not take risks lightly. A distant metallic clang echoed from the direction we had come from. The infiltrators had breached the medical bay. They were close. I tightened my grip on the plasma scalpel. "They're fast." Zyrah didn't respond. Instead, she pressed forward, her energy blade shimmering in the dim light. Then the corridor ahead of us split two paths, one descending into an industrial sector, the other leading toward what looked like a containment wing. Zyrah hesitated, her eyes scanning the Valorian script marking the walls. "They will expect us to take the evacuation route," she murmured. "That would be the logical escape path." I caught on immediately. "So we don't take it," she nodded. "We go left." We veered into the containment wing. The air here was different, colder, humming with a faint vibration. The walls were lined with sealed chambers, each one holding something or someone inside. "What the hell is this place?" I muttered. Zyrah didn't answer right away. Her bioluminescence flickered. "Restricted Research Division." That wasn't a real answer. Before I could press further, a voice crackled through the air. "Stop running. We only need the human." My blood ran cold. The voice was distorted, artificial, filtered through a helmet. But something about the tone sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't just a demand, it was a warning. Zyrah's grip on her weapon tightened. "Need to keep moving," she whispered. I wasn't about to argue. We pushed forward, navigating the twisting corridor. The containment chambers lining the walls pulsed with soft green light, their interiors obscured by a translucent energy field. But out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement. Something was inside one of them. I barely had time to register it before a metallic explosion shattered the air. The infiltrators had breached the containment wing. Zyrah reacted instantly, her energy blade igniting as she spun, slashing toward the nearest attacker. The infiltrator's exosuit absorbed the first hit, but the second strike sliced through the armor's joint plating, sending a spray of biosynthetic fluid into the air. I had no time to process the sight before another operative lunged at me. Instinct took over. I dodged the first strike barely, my body still sluggish from recovery. The infiltrator's carbon-plated gauntlet grazed my side, sending a shockwave of pain through my ribs. I countered, driving the plasma scalpel into the soft joint near his helmet. The blade burned through the material, and the infiltrator let out a guttural choke before collapsing. Zyrah moved with inhuman speed, her blade cutting through another attacker with surgical precision. But more were coming. Too many. We need to fall back, I shouted. She nodded, and we sprinted deeper into the containment wing. Alarms blared as the facility finally registered the breach. Then one of the sealed chambers slid open. The containment field dissipated, revealing a tall figure stepping out. For a moment, I thought it was another infiltrator. Then I saw its eyes, glowing, not human, not Valorian, something else, something we weren't supposed to see. The figure turned its gaze to me, and a slow, deliberate smile spread across its alien features. "You're not supposed to be here," it said, and then all hell broke loose. The moment stretched heavy with tension. The figure before us was unlike anything I had ever seen. Tall as Illy, over 7 feet with an elongated, sinewy form. Its skin shimmered in the dim light, shifting between hues of dark silver and violet, as if reacting to its environment. Its eyes large, glowing, and inhumanly sharp locked onto me with an intensity that made my breath hitch. The infiltrators behind us froze, as if they weren't expecting this any more than we were. Zyrah's bioluminescence pulsed rapidly, pattern I was starting to associate with alarm. I tightened my grip on the plasma scalpel, my mind racing. Who or what was this? Then the being took a single step forward, its movement eerily smooth, almost predatory. "You don't belong here," it said again, its voice a strange melodic distortion, as if 2 frequencies were speaking at once. I swallowed. "Yeah, well, neither do they." I nodded toward the infiltrators behind us. The armored figures hadn't moved, their weapons still raised, but something about their posture had changed. Hesitation. Whoever they were, they hadn't planned on. This Zyrah spoke then, her voice controlled but edged with something I'd never heard from her before: fear. This containment sector was supposed to be sealed. The alien's gaze flicked toward her, its eyes narrowing. Was it? Zyrah hesitated. The infiltrator leader, the one who had spoken over comms, earlier took a cautious step forward. His voice crackled through his helmet's modulator. "This does not concern you," he said, directing his words toward the alien. "Stand down." The being didn't react. Instead, its glowing eyes settled back on me. Then it smiled. It was slow, deliberate, unnervingly human. "You are different." The words sent a chill down my spine. I had no idea what it meant then. Before I could even think to react, the alien moved fast. A blur of motion impossibly quick. The first infiltrator barely had time to raise his weapon before the being was upon him, a single reclude, precisent the armored soldier crashing against the containment chamber wall, his helmeted head snapping back with an audible crack. The remaining infiltrators immediately fired. Energy rounds streaked through the air, their red-hot glow casting jagged shadows against the walls. But the alien was already gone. It moved between them like liquid shadow, twisting, weaving its form, shifting colors to blend with the environment. Another soldier screamed as a sharp, elongated limb pierced through his chest plate, lifting him off the ground before hurling him aside like a ragdoll. The remaining 2 operatives backpedaled, but it was already over. The last soldier barely had time to choke out a final word before a blur of movement silenced him permanently. Then dash silence. The entire exchange had lasted less than 10 seconds. I felt my heartbeat pounding against my ribs. The alien exhaled slowly, then turned its gaze back to me. Zyrah stepped in front of me. "You cannot take him," she said, her voice low, firm. The being tilted its head, watching her curiously. "Take him?" Its gaze flickered to me again, and I swore I saw something akin to amusement in its expression. "No, doctor," it murmured. "I do not seek to take him. I seek to understand him." Zyrah stiffened. "That is not your concern." The alien smiled again. "Everything here," it said, "is my concern." And then, without warning, the facility's alarms blared again louder. This time, a robotic voice rang through the comm system, speaking in Valorian dialect. Zyrah's expression immediately darkened. I glanced at her. "What's it saying?" She turned to me, her glowing eyes unreadable. "It's saying that the containment breach has triggered an automatic purge." My stomach dropped. Purge. Zyrah's jaw tightened. "This sector is being sealed off permanently." The alien's smile faded. And then, for the first time, I saw something resembling urgency in its gaze. It turned toward the corridor, where a set of massive, reinforced blast doors had begun to descend, locking us in. Zyrah didn't waste a second. "Move." She grabbed my arm and pulled me forward. The alien was already in motion, its form a blur as it darted toward the closing doors. I ran, ignoring the burning ache in my muscles, my heart hammering in my chest. The containment sector rumbled as hidden mechanisms activated vents, opening, a low, ominous hissing filling the air. I didn't need to ask what it was. They were flooding this section with something. Zyrah yanked me forward, her grip unrelenting. The doors were almost shut tonally. A small opening remained. The alien reached it first. Without hesitation, it turned back, then extended a hand. For one breath, I hesitated. Then I grabbed it. The alien's grip was shockingly strong. Me through the narrowing gap, just as Zyrah slipped through behind me. The doors slammed shut. Sealing the containment wing. Silence, I collapsed against the opposite wall, panting, my mind still racing. Zyrah was already pressing her fingers to the control panel, overriding security protocols. The alien watched me, its expression unreadable. Then it finally spoke. "You are interesting," I swallowed. "That makes one of us." A slow smile. Zyrah didn't look at either of us. Her focus was on the screen before her. "We're not safe yet," she said. I pushed myself up. "Where do we go now?" she exhaled. "There's only one place left." She turned toward me, and I saw something I didn't like in her eyes. The central research vault. I frowned. "And what the hell is in there?" Zyrah's expression darkened. "The answers," she said simply. The alien let out a soft, almost pleased hum. Then it gestured for us to move. And with that, we descended deeper into the facility toward whatever truth was waiting for us in the heart of the Valorian vault. The facility's emergency lights bathed the corridor in a pulsing crimson glow, flickering in sync with the pounding of my heart. The alien, whoever or whatever it was, walked beside us, its gaze shifting between me and Zyrah, a strange glint of calculation in its glowing eyes. Zyrah's grip on her energy blade never relaxed. I caught her stealing glances at our new companion, her bioluminescence fluctuating between deep violet and sharp silver, a mix of unease and determination. We weren't safe yet, not by a long shot. "Are you going to tell me what the hell we're walking into?" I asked, my voice low. Zyrah didn't answer right away. Instead, she led us through a narrow passage, sealed off by a reinforced door at the far end. She pressed her palm against a hidden control panel, and a holographic interface flickered to life. The alien watched with an almost amused curiosity. "You do not trust him," it said, its voice still carrying that strange dual-toned resonance. Zyrah's jaw tightened. "I trust no one here." I exhaled sharply. "That makes three of us." The door hissed open, revealing a massive chamber beyond. My breath caught. Rows of suspended cryopods stretched into the distance, each one pulsing with a soft, eerie blue light. Strange biomechanical structures lined the walls, their surfaces shifting as if alive, pulsing in rhythm with the facility's heartbeat. At the center of the chamber was a terminal, and from it, a single data conduit extended, leading to a massive containment sphere at the far end of the room. Something was inside. Zyrah strode forward, her eyes locked onto the containment unit. Her fingers danced over the control panel, alien symbols scrolling across the holographic interface. I stepped beside her, glancing at the lines of code flashing across the display. "What is this place?" Zyrah exhaled. "The reason you were brought here." That sent a cold chill down my spine. I turned to her, my voice firm. "No more half-truths. Tell me what's really going on." Zyrah hesitated. Then slowly she turned toward me, her glowing gaze unreadable. You are not just a patient, Daniel. My stomach clenched at the way she said my name. You were supposed to die, she continued. In that explosion, in that war. But you didn't. I frowned because you saved me. Her lips parted slightly. Because I was ordered to. That stopped me cold. Zyrah pressed a sequence into the control panel, and the containment sphere at the far end of the room shuddered, its glowing surface rippling. A holographic projection burst to life. Above you, a sun image of my own body suspended in a medical stasis chamber. My pulse spiked. Zyrah nodded. What we recovered of you. I took a step back. What the hell does that mean? The alien, still silent, watched with an expression I couldn't quite place. Zyrah's next words changed everything. You weren't just injured, Daniel. She paused as if weighing whether she should even say it. You were dead. The air left my lungs. No, I muttered. That's not possible. Zyrah continued, her voice measured, clinical-like she was speaking to a test subject, not a person. The Terran military didn't tell you what they were working on. You were part of an experimental unit, exposed to classified biotech enhancements, designed to make you, she hesitated, resilient. I shook my head. They didn't tell you because they didn't expect it to work. Her glowing eyes locked onto mine. You died in that battle, Daniel. What we recovered was a body, a corpse. I stumbled back, my mind reeling. No, that wasn't possible. I remembered the explosion. I remembered the searing pain. I remembered waking up here. But what if I hadn't woken up? What if I had been rebuilt? My breathing was shaky. I clenched my fists, trying to ground myself. Then why bring me here? Zyrah's gaze flickered. Because whatever they did to you, it worked, she said softly. Your body repaired itself. On its own, the alien finally spoke. Fascinating, it murmured, stepping closer. You are an anomaly. I snapped my head toward it. What the hell do you know? It smiled. I know you are not entirely human anymore. The words hit me like a hammer. Zyrah turned back to the control panel, activating another holographic projection. This time, it showed something far worse. A file, a classified dossier. The symbol of the Terran Military Research Division stamped in red across the top. Project, Reclamation, and my name, Daniel Kessler. Subject status, unknown mutation, progress -ongoing. I staggered back, my mind racing, my hands were shaking. I clenched them into fists, trying to steady myself. Mutation, my voice came out hoarse. Zyrah didn't answer. The alien, however, took another step closer, glowing gaze burning into mine. I believe it said slowly that the humans did not create what you are. Its expression shifted into something almost reverent. They merely unlocked it. The silence that followed was deafening. Then the alarms blared again. This time, the facility's security systems fully activated. Zyrah cursed under her breath, pressing rapidly at the console. They're overriding the lockdown. We have company. I forced my thoughts into focus, burying the panic, the fear, the disbelief. What do? I asked, my voice more controlled than I felt. Zyrah hesitated. Then she turned to me, her gaze firm. We get you out of here. I swallowed hard, my mind a storm of unanswered questions. But one thing was clear: I wasn't leaving this place as the same man who had woken up here. Because maybe, just maybe, I wasn't a man at all. The alarms howled like dying beasts, reverberating through the facility's walls. Emergency lights strobed, casting long, jagged shadows that flickered in sync with my rapid breathing. The security lockdown had failed. They were coming. Zyrah slammed a hand against the terminal, her glowing eyes narrowing as she pulled up a live feed of the corridor outside. Multiple armored figures moved in tactical formation, a mix of heavily armed soldiers and synthetic enforcers, their plated exosuits glinting under the emergency lights. Damn it, she muttered. They're sending a full strike team. I could barely process her words. My pulse thundered in my ears, drowning out everything but the echo of what I had just learned. I was dead. I had died in that war, and yet I was standing here, breathing, moving, alive, or at least something close to it. I clenched my fists. My hand still felt like mine, but now I wasn't sure what that even meant. I turned to Zyrah, my voice hoarse. "What the hell am I?" Zyrah hesitated. I could see the war in her expression, the struggle between scientist and soldier, between duty and whatever twisted obligation she felt toward me. Finally, she exhaled. "You're something they can't control." The alien, who had been silent, suddenly let out a low, almost pleased hum, a transformation hidden within flesh. "They feared it, your people. That is why they tried to bury it." I snapped my head toward it. "What do you mean?" It smiled a slow, knowing curve of its lips. "The humans did not make you, Daniel Kessler," it said. "They only discovered you." Something cold curled in my gut. I didn't have time to respond. A deep rumble shook the facility, followed by the deafening roar of an explosion from the corridor outside. The security feed flickered, then died in a burst of static. "They're breaching," Zyrah said. I inhaled sharply, forcing down the confusion. The questions: the fear, focus, survive, find out the truth later. Zyrah turned to me. "We need to move now." I glanced at the containment sphere, the holographic projection of my own body still flickering above it. I had come here searching for answers. Instead, I had found something far worse, and now I had to fight my way out of it. Zyrah pulled a sidearm from her belt and tossed it to me. I caught it on reflex, the weight of it familiar but somehow wrong. I stared down at the weapon in my hand. My fingers curled around it, but something inside me whispered that I wouldn't need it. The alien watched me, its glowing eyes narrowing. Slightly then, in a voice laced with something unreadable, it spoke again. "They are not prepared for you." The words sent a shiver down my spine, and then the doors exploded inward. The first kill smoke and fire filled the chamber as heavily. Armed soldiers poured in, weapons raised. The first shot was fired before I even had time to think. I should have moved. I should have died. But something else took over. Before the plasma bolt could hit me, my body moved. Instinctively, unnaturally fast, I twisted aside, the shot barely grazing me. Time felt different, as if my senses had expanded beyond what was humanly possible. Another soldier raised his rifle. I felt it before I saw it. The world sharpened, every sound, every movement, every detail. Before he could pull the trigger, my body surged forward. Too fast, I slammed into him, my hand gripping his helmeted head, and with a single motion I crushed it. The armor shattered beneath my fingers like glass. The soldier's body collapsed, lifeless, before I even processed what I had done. A deep, mortifying silence filled the room. Even the infiltrators hesitated. Zyrah's eyes widened slightly. "Daniel," the alien smiled. I looked down at my own hands, my fingers coated in blood and shattered armor. But I wasn't shaken. I wasn't panicking. It felt natural. Another soldier lunged forward, blade drawn, without thinking. I caught his wrist and twisted a sickening snap echoed through the chamber as his arm broke at an impossible angle. He screamed, but only for a second, because I ended it. A monster in the making's remaining soldiers didn't hesitate any longer. They opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked through the air, but I moved before they could hit me. I didn't know how. I didn't understand why. All I knew was that their weapons felt slow. I was faster, stronger, more. Zyrah fought beside me, her energy blade flashing as she cut down one of the soldiers. The alien barely moved, watching everything with a strange, fascinated expression. One of the soldiers managed to press a panic trigger on his gauntlet. A mechanical voice blared through the comm system. "Activate the failsafe." Bioluminescence pulsed sharply. No, then pain. A searing white-hot agony exploded in my chest, flooding through my veins like fire. I collapsed to my knees. My body convulsed, a sharp electric current burning through every nerve. I heard Zyrah scream my name. I heard the alien let out a low, displeased sound. And then I heard them, a voice. Inside my head, not one, many, layered over each other, overlapping, whispering, screaming, "Remember, remember, remember." The facility faded. The sounds of battle became distant, and in the darkness, I saw it, a shape, a presence, something vast, something ancient, something buried deep within me. Not human, not machine, something else. It stared back at me And then Nit spoke. "You are awake." The end of Controlly gasped, reality snapping back into focus. The fail-safe's effects were fading, but something had changed. I looked up at the soldiers, at Zyrah, at the alien, and I realized I could hear their thoughts, their fear, their desperation. They weren't here to contain me, they were here to kill me, because they knew what I was, and now so did I. I pushed myself up, slowly. The soldiers took an instinctive step back. Zyrah's bioluminescence flared. "Daniel." I turned to her. My voice was different now, deeper, sharper, stronger. They were right to fear me, and then Nye attacked. The moment I moved, the soldiers barely had time to scream. A pulse of raw energy surged through my veins, flooding every nerve with something beyond adrenaline's, something primal. My vision sharpened to a terrifying degree. I could see every detail of their armor, the way their hands trembled on their weapons, the subtle shifts in their stance, the calculations of fear. They weren't just afraid, they knew they were prey. The first soldier raised his plasma rifle, but he was too slow. I surged forward, too fast. In a fraction of a second, I was inside their ranks, my hands finding the first soldier's throat. I felt the synthetic weave of his armor beneath my fingers as I crushed it effortlessly. His body collapsed, lifeless dot. The next soldier let out a strangled cry and fired at point-blank range. The plasma bolt slammed into my chest. I barely felt it. The heat dissipated against my skin, the nanofibers of my suit absorbing the impact. Something inside me adapted, absorbed, evolved. I looked at him, and I smiled, his face twisted in horror. Before, I ripped the rifle from his hands and drove it straight through his helmet. The remaining soldiers broke formation. They ran. Zyrah stood frozen, her bioluminescence pulsing wildly somewhere between awe and terror. And the alien, it was grinning. The last defensia, deafening klaxon, rang through the facility. Final protocol activated. The walls shuddered. Security barriers descended. A massive bulkhead at the far end of the chamber hissed open, revealing something much worse than soldiers. They had sent in the Titan's heavy combat synthetics 8 feet tall, plated in reinforced alloy. War. Their optical sensors glowed blood red as they stepped forward in perfect sync, their heavy footsteps shaking the ground beneath them. Zyrah's voice was sharp. "They're going to level this entire facility if they have to." I should have been afraid, but I wasn't. The thing inside me, whatever it was, had already taken hold. I could feel it whispering at the edges of my mind. Not words, instincts, commands, hunger, the lead. Titan raised its arm-mounted cannon, the targeting system locking onto my skull. I heard the click of the charge cycle, and then, without thinking, I raised my hand. The unstoppable Forsyth Titan fired. A kinetic shockwave erupted from its cannon, a concentrated blast powerful enough to reduce solid steel to dust. But before it could reach me, I caught it. My fingers closed around the energy pulse for a single moment. The world went silent. The energy hummed in my grasp, vibrating with enough force to tear through my entire body. But instead of destroying, I absorbed it. The energy sank into my skin, merging with whatever was inside me. My muscles tightened, adapted, changed. I felt it rewriting me. The Titans hesitated. They were machines, designed to analyze threats, to calculate risk. And I could see it in their hesitation. They didn't understand what I was, but they knew, couldn't stop me. I smiled, then I moved. I ripped through the first Titan like it was made of paper, my fingers tearing through its armored plating as if it were nothing. The machine shuddered, its internal systems failing instantly as I pulled out its power core with a single yank dot. It collapsed in a heap. The others opened fire, but I was already gone. I tore through them one by one, dismantling them faster than their combat could react. Every shot they fired fed me, made me stronger. Every impact only fueled the thing inside me. Within seconds, they were scrap. Sparks rained down from the ceiling, the facility groaning under the damage. I stood amidst the wreckage, my breathing steady, controlled. Zyrah stared at me, her glowing eyes wide. I turned to her. She took a half step back. She was afraid, and for the first time, I wondered if she was right to be. The Choice's alien let out a slow exhale, watching me with something bordering on reverence. "It has begun," it murmured, frowned. "What has it?" Took a step forward. tilting its head slightly. The unraveling, the return of what was lost. I clenched my fists. I don't care about riddles. I need to know what's happening to me. Zyrah finally found her voice. "You're changing, Daniel." She hesitated. I saw something in her eyes that I hadn't seen before. Doubt. No, not just doubt. Fear. Not of the situation, of me. I swallowed. "I'm still me." She didn't answer. The alien, however, smiled again. For now, a distant explosion rumbled through the facility. Backup was coming. We didn't have time. Zyrah shook her head, her expression hardening. "We need to go." Now, I nodded. But deep inside, I knew things wouldn't be the same after this. I had become something else. And the real question was, would I ever be human again? Or had I just taken the first step toward becoming something far worse? The air smelled of burnt metal and ozone. Sparks flickered from the destroyed titans, their mangled husks strewn across the facility floor. Somewhere in the distance, alarms wailed, and I could hear the distant rumble of approaching reinforcements. But none of it mattered, because in this moment, everything had changed. I stood amidst the wreckage, my breathing steady, my body thrumming with a power I didn't understand. Zyrah was watching me like I was, something dangerous. Not a soldier, not a man, something else. Her bioluminescence flickered uncertainly. "Daniel, we need to go." She was trying to hide it, but I could see the way her fingers tensed near her weapon, just in case. I should have been angry, but I wasn't, because a part of me understood she had seen me tear through those titans like they were made of paper. She had seen me catch a blast of pure energy in my hand and absorb it like it was nothing. And worst of all, had enjoyed it. Something inside me had awakened, something old and unstoppably, and I didn't know if I could lock it away again. The alien was still watching me, its gaze unreadable. "You are at the crossroads, human." I turned to it. "What does that mean?" It smiled slowly. "It means you must choose." "The truth," Revility clenched my jaw. "Choose what?" It gestured toward the carnage around us. "To embrace what you are becoming, or to fight it." I felt something dark and cold coil in my chest. "And what am I becoming?" The alien stepped closer. "A being unlike any before you. A force that could burn the stars or save them." Zyrah let out a sharp breath. "Daniel, don't listen to it. We can fix this. We just need to get you out of here. Get you to a safe." The alien chuckled. "There is no fixing him. You have already seen it." Zyrah's lips pressed into a thin line. I could see the conflict in her glowing eyes. She wanted to believe. I was still me, but we both knew the truth. I wasn't, not anymore. I turned my gaze back to the alien. "And if I embrace it," it tilted its head, "then you will never fear again. Never be weak again. You will ascend." The words sent a shiver down my spine. I didn't know what ascending meant, but deep inside, I could feel it calling to me. I glanced at Zyrah. She was desperate now. "Daniel, if you give in to this, you might not come back, and if you don't, I'll have to stop you." Her fingers twitched over her weapon. I exhaled slowly, and in that moment, I realized something. She was afraid of what I was becoming, but I was. To dot the decisions, facility shook as another explosion rumbled through. Its corridors, the reinforcements would be here any second. I could feel everything. The movement of the soldiers beyond the walls, the hum of the power core beneath the floor, the way Zyrah's pulse was quickening, her mind racing through her next move. Seeing the world in a way no human ever should. And that's when I knew if I stayed like this, if I embraced this power, I wouldn't just lose myself, I would lose her, and maybe that was the only thing still keeping me human. I let out a slow breath. Then I made my choice. I reached for Zyrah's hand. She hesitated, then took it. The alien's smile faltered. "You are resisting?" I nodded. "I am." For a second, it looked almost disappointed. "Then you will suffer." "Maybe," I said, "but at least I'll still be me." The great escape walls rumbled violently. The final detonation sequence had been triggered. I turned to Zyrah. "Can you get us out of here?" She blinked, then snapped into action. "Follow me." She pulled me forward, weaving through the wreckage as the entire facility began to collapse. The alien stayed behind, watching me with an expression I couldn't place. I didn't know if we'd meet again, and I didn't know if I'd regret my choice, but as I ran, feeling Zyrah's grip tighten around mine, I knew one thing for sure: wasn't going to become a monster today. The doors blew open ahead of us. The night sky stretched wide, stars flickering like distant embers. Freedom, and maybe, just maybe, a second chance.